Everyone drinks water. It's necessary for our survival. Everyone has a different preference to what type of water we do actually drink. Most of us see bottled water as a safer and cleaner alternative, but tap water actually can be more safe. In fact, 25% of bottled water is actually nothing more than tap water. And some water bottle industries can actually be distributing water they get from a dump, and there are no rules or regulations against it. Today I'm going to inform you about some of the commonly unknown realities of bottled water by first giving you some actual facts and general information about the bottled water industry. I will then go on to clarify the lack of regulations and rules about the water quality in bottled water. After, I will explain how it's bottled water companies that truly shape the general perceptions of bottled water and tap water quality. Lastly, I will conclude with some safer possibilities people have when choosing their water sources. It is important to first be aware of some important facts about bottled water. First, Americans actually consume about 8.6 billion gallons of bottled water a year. The actual price of bottled water is much higher than regular tap water. Bottled water costs about 0.25 cents to $2 per bottle, while the same amount of tap water costs less than a penny. Ultimately, bottled water is about 10,000 times the cost of tap. The reason for such price differences are often in the production of the bottle rather than the water itself. 90% of the manufacturer's cost comes from producing the bottle, the label, the cap, and the bottle shipment. Not only does it cost so much to produce the bottle, it actually takes about 3 times the amount of water to produce the bottle than to actually fill one. 17 million barrels of oil are also used yearly in this production process. This is enough oil to fuel 1 million cars for an entire year. These bottles are then discarded with only 1 of every 5 actually recycled, leaving about 2 million to fill landfills, where it actually takes 1,000 years for each of these bottles to biodegrade. As you can see, the production of water bottles can be very costly and comes with many disadvantages. In addition to the harmful effects of production in this industry, the water in these seemingly safe bottles can actually be very harmful. First of all, bottled water has very low standards for the quality in order to be sold, leading to the questions of what the true sources are for the water and how clean the water actually is. The Environmental Protective Agency, or the EPA, has strict quality standards for tap water. However, the EPA doesn't regulate the bottled water industry. The FDA does, and therefore has different regulations and interprets the EPA standards very loosely. Public or community water systems are required to provide a drinking water report to its consumers annually, called Consumer Confidence Reports, or CPRs. Bottled water companies aren't required to give out any type of CPR, nor do their water have to even be tested in certified labs. In the bottled water industry, there's no requirement for any company to even reveal test results when the standards aren't met, and if there are levels of any contaminants in the water, companies aren't even required to notify customers within 24 hours. There aren't even regulations preventing bottled water companies from drawing water next to industrial sites, underground storage tanks, or even dumps. According to a report by CNN, most bottled waters don't even disclose important facts such as the water source, the purification process, or whether there have been chemical pollutants. Some of the best-known water companies such as Whole Foods and San Pellegrino are least likely to report where their water comes from. I went out and bought actually a San Pellegrino bottle, and I paid about $1.70 for it, and I was looking on the label to see what information they give you, and they literally don't tell you how the water is processed or where any of the sources are either. And it's funny because you end up paying $1.70 for this when you could be getting tap water a lot cheaper, and you actually know where it's coming from. There are regulations. I thought that was interesting. Other major companies like Dasani, owned by Coca-Cola, and Aquafina, owned by Pepsi, are actually tap water from places like Queens, New York, and Jacksonville, Florida. Additionally, there have been several tests on bottled waters that have resulted in disturbing and unhealthy outcomes. In a Pennsylvania State Health Department test for hundreds of different chemicals and 38 different brands of California bottled waters, the result ended up with 2 samples having arsenic contamination, 6 samples with chemical byproducts of chlorination, and 6 other samples with levels of a toxic chemical called toluene, which is actually in the production of TNT. So why do we as consumers buy products we truly know so little about? We may argue that it's because we aren't truly informed of the facts because of the lack of regulations, But a huge reason for the sale of the bottled water is so successful is through highly effective advertising. Advertising of bottled water has grown tremendously in recent years, with an 8 to 10% increase every year, which is actually 2 times faster than any other beverage. Companies like Nestle, Coke, and Pepsi are making a fortune off of bottled water, so of course they don't want to disclose any real actual facts about the industry. Instead, they increase spending on advertising and sway people to believe it's a pure and healthy choice. Some of the biggest advertiser spenders are Sparklets, with a $1.7 million budget on advertisements alone, while Arrowhead, which is owned by the Perrier Group, has a budget of $1.1 million. These advertisements convince people that they are being safe by purchasing a higher quality of water, and also gives them a much healthier alternative to soda or alcohol. A concern about the quality of tap water is pushed by advertisers, who then further encourage people to buy bottled water. There are even expensive campaigns in order to sell bottled water. These campaigns sway people to think that their tap water is harmful by headlighting potential risk and highlighting any time there is a contamination in the tap water, and then offering an alternative that is portrayed to be cleaner and safer. It's stressful for people to constantly be worried about all the hazards in the water we drink. However, it is important to understand the facts and that there are steps that can be taken in order to minimize the risk of consuming contaminated water. 40% of viruses and flus come from our drinking water, making it apparent that there are many potential hazards in drinking water. Many people have this preconception that bottled water is a safer alternative to our regular tap water. But as we now know, there is so much information about this bottled water that is not disclosed to consumers. About 25% of actual bottled water is nothing more than tap water, while another 40% is actually taken from tap water. However, unlike tap water, bottled water doesn't undergo as many or as strict of regulations before being put on the market, and is also not required to disclose information about the source it comes from. Such lenient rules create dangers and risks for consumers. Because there are risks of contamination in drinking both bottled and tap water, one of the best ways to limit these risks is through filters. Activated carbon water filters can further clean our drinking water, such as Brita or other faucet attachments. With filters, we are taking the already least expensive source of water that is regulated by the EPA, and additionally filtering it to assure its drinkability. Thus, it is extremely important to consider our water sources and what the most practical choice should be.
All right, Jessica, the opening is okay. I think it could be a little bit more interesting, but it does identify the subject, and the common thing that everybody has that you're talking about should pull us in a little bit. The topic, like I said, is pretty well identified. Your phrasing's awkward on the goal, but it's clear where you're headed, and I thought you had a very good preview of what the content was. That also stands true in the body of the speech. I think that you follow the organizational structure for the most part, and that you have pretty clear transitions from one piece of information to the next, or one section of material to the next. I think you need to be a little bit more consistent about citing sources. I heard the CNN citation at one point, but that was about the only one that I could specifically say that you got information from. There's a lot of data in the speech about the amounts of water that are from different locations or places, that the percentage that are tap water. For instance, it sounds to me like the best kinds of water to get are the bottled water that are tap water, instead of it being something that we're being fooled with. It's actually good because it's got to meet those particular standards that the tap water has to meet. So all the regulations of tap water, plus the convenience it's in a bottle. So instead of it being a criticism, it almost comes across as an endorsement there. On the visuals, all you have is the one bottle, and I think that's a little underwhelming. There's some statistical information that you've got, for instance, that could easily be represented by some kind of graph or chart. At the end, you come back to the number of the places with, the percentages that people get their water from, or how much is filtered, or any of those kinds of things. I think that might have been something to develop a little bit more also. I like the information early on that talked about how bottling, creating the bottle and label and all that stuff is the most expensive part of the process, and the impact that it might have on the environment almost turns it into a persuasive